Views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
You know that moment when you realize you have mastered your wellness. When you've become so resilient, you can conquer any hiccup life throws you. Yeah, well, me either. But I still ride unicorns. I'll teach you how to become a mindset master. You will learn how your habits and behavior affect your success of nutrition, exercise, relationships, organization, and so much more. It's your reality, and you need to do it your way. Self-care and self-love are anything but selfish. Take charge. Get excited. If not now, then when? Grab your espresso and get ready to talk all things wellness. It's time for Coach, Couch, and Coffee Radio with Coach Peggy Willms right now.
Hey everyone, welcome to Coach, Couch, and Coffee here on Transformation Talk Radio. I'm Coach Peggy. You find me I say this all the time, 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 Eastern, and you can catch me here on Monday nights. I have Emma Mardlin back. She was here a couple weeks ago. If you have not seen it, I want you to go back and look at the podcasts, part 1 and part 2 on her book, Out of Your Comfort Zone. We had fantastic time. Today, we're going to talk about her 5-star seller on mind, body, and diabetes. First of all, I have my unicorn mug. Emma, you're going to be proud of me. This one changes colors.
Oh, wow.
This unicorn mug. And it changes colors based off hot or cold beverage. So I thought since we're talking about diabetes and what we put in our body, it was very,
fabulous.
And then I have the kitchen back here from the 1950s because I thought time has changed where we thought diabetes was just about what you eat. We're going to change some thoughts today.
Only you, Peggy. I love it.
We're going to change some thoughts. Okay, let me just give you a heads up of our girl here. She's a partner in a practice, Pinnacle Practice, a well-being clinic and a training consultancy in London. She is a clinical therapist and performance coach holding a PhD in psychotherapy, mind, body medicine. So as I said, she's written a couple of books. It's so exciting. And she's here today to talk about her personal experience when she was a diabetic, when she had diabetes. She's reversed it. I said that well, didn't I?
Well done. You learned from last time.
I did that. I did that well. So welcome to the show. Welcome back. How are you today?
Hello, I'm brilliant. Thank you. And so happy to be back. Thank you for inviting me again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is one of those subjects. I know you're not American, but welcome to America. I've been in this industry for 30 years, dancing around wellness, health, wellness, corporate America, medical field, and diabetes is just one of those things that has so many stigmas, baggage attached to it, blame and shame and, political stuff and just heavy stuff. And so your book is written in it's a different way. And I want to chat with you everything from the definitions of the 2 different types of diabetes, but all the way through to the amazing approach you take with the mindset and how this is going to be a different talk with us today. So can you first, I don't know what to do. I don't know whether to ask you when diabetes came into your life or what are the 2. Let's talk about what the 2 types of diabetes are first, just in case our listeners are wondering type 1, type 2. And then tell me your story.
Sure, that's a really important one, actually. Yeah. With type 1 diabetes, that's an autoimmune condition. So that's when the beta cells that produce insulin to function your body normally have been destroyed, or at least 70% of them have been destroyed at the time of diagnosis. And not a lot of people know that bit. Mm-hmm. And that's actually a key to part of a reversal work that I actually do with type 1 diabetes. So I'll come back to that. Okay. But generally speaking, that's the one that happens in childhood and adolescence, and it happens through a viral attack of the beta cells. So you have to inject insulin, and you have to monitor it very carefully because your sugars can then go too high or too low. Type 2 diabetes is more a resistance to insulin and your body being able to function normally. That's why it can actually be reversed by diets. And at worst, you would have to go on medication for it just to give that extra boost to your system to be able to cope with all the sugars that are in the body naturally. But essentially, in this case, it's when your pancreas, the organ that produces the insulin, has just been overworked. So it's just like a machine. If you overwork something, it's going to eventually give up or, not function as well. And that's the case with type 2 diabetes. So that's usually when sugar levels are just too high and we need to bring them down a little bit. So actually that condition can already be fully reversed just by diet alone and watching what you eat. But also, I will say mindset is pivotal, because that's really what helps you to get the good diet and the reversal in the first place. But as far as I'm concerned and the work I do, type 1, type 2, you can completely get rid of it if you want to take it that far. Other than that, it never has to be this dark black hole. It really doesn't. So as you say, Peggy, the book is a completely different approach in terms of how you can use the mind to activate very positive changes within the body, that using the biochemistry of the brain that changes the biochemistry of the body to actually create changes. So if we think about it, if we can create disease within our body, we can also create health within our body. People accept that if you get a cut or a graze on your hand, it heals. They don't think it's a miracle. So why would not having your cells functioning properly in your body, but getting them, treating them right, loving your body again, why wouldn't that get your cells functioning properly? So it's really a change in mindset completely and a different way of thinking. And a lot of the time, people aren't to blame at all for this. It's just how they've been brought up throughout life in terms of how you think. And then in conventional medicine, how many people, not all doctors at all, but how many physicians will actually negatively suggest that, once you have diabetes, you'll always have diabetes.
Right, you're late,
and that's that. And it's not the case at all, because they don't understand how the mind and body connect and how they actually work and function. And that is in essence what the book's all about, really. And it's about a very can-do philosophy of everything that we can do to improve our health and stop diabetes in its tracks.
And your history with diabetes started very young.
Yes.
Brought on, induced by what was your experience?
Well, I was 10 years old. I was very ill. I'd actually been going backwards and forwards to the doctors before it was diagnosed, when I was rushed in as an emergency in the hospital. But I knew this at the time when I was a child, although it said it was a virus, that attacks the cells and stops them working properly. There's a reason why you got that virus in the first place. Why was my immune system so low that it picked up this virus? And out of all the things this virus could do in my body, it attacked my pancreas. So I know that, just a year to the actual month when I was diagnosed, I had a very big trauma in my life, in my family life, and that took away sweetness. And if you think metaphorically about diabetes, it's too much sugar in your body. So, it's so simple in a sense, metaphysically, which simply means going back to the very origins and roots of things. The sweetness had been ripped from me, so my body overcompensated by giving me sweetness in that sense. So it's interesting how the virus actually attacked my pancreas of all organs, and that's, as far as I'm concerned, what happened, because I had a very big shock in my life, which can cause an organ not to work in itself. It was a stressful time, and that's really what instigated my diabetes. And despite what doctors would say at the time, I knew, because as I may have mentioned on the last shows when we met, I have a very high intuition, so I know my body very well, and I always have a gut feeling of what actually is wrong. I can, just look at a person and tell if something's wrong with them, or, what's kind of going on in their mind. So I could do that with myself as well. So I knew. And at the point of diagnosis, although they said to me the classic, you're a diabetic, you'll always be a diabetic, and you're going to have to inject insulin for the rest of your life, as a tiny 10-year-old, I was just happy that I found out I wasn't going to die, because it did feel like that beforehand. But I said to myself, no, I won't be injecting insulin for the rest of my life. I knew at that point I was going to reverse this condition. No matter what anybody said to me, my brain, when I found out what the condition actually was, I kind of knew why I had it and what had happened in that sense. But I also knew that there's something I can do to reverse this condition. I knew that I could let go of it. And that's what my work and research is today, in terms of the metaphysical health, which is simply the very root origins of what manifests any health condition, because it all starts with the mind. Because every single thought and emotion and deep belief that we have is carried in neurotransmitters that actually are found to bathe every single cell in the body. So it's inextricably linked. You can't possibly think and have something going on in your mind that isn't actually reflected in some way in the body. That's why all health is actually metaphorical and metaphysical of our thoughts and emotions. And throughout the book, I give lots of examples and scientific basis why this is the case, and what neuroscientists have discovered, even in the field of medicine, what's been discovered, various case studies of how this works. Because when we erase certain memories, we erase them from our physical cells in the body as well, because of these neurotransmitters, and therefore we can actually let go of disease and ill health conditions, which is just
refiring and rewiring.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. What you did in the book that I thought was great, the sections where you have us ask questions. You know, the baggage and the stories we tell ourselves, whether it's diabetes or hypothyroid or whatever it is, the thing that we feel is the monkey on our back. Just that single approach. When I looked at that, I thought all those questions to be able to say, you know, what do you tell yourself with this? Where do you see yourself with this? Was an approach I hadn't seen before. So first of all, thank you for that, because it turned on some light bulbs for me as a coach. But what are your thoughts with that in reversing someone's mindset who might be listening right now that has type 1 or type 2, is telling themselves that story? They've got the baggage, they're stuck forever, or they're playing with their insulin. I've got many clients like that'll go eat blank so they feel better, and they're playing games with their insulin and not, what if the story was, I don't want to have insulin anymore? I mean, we can change those stories.
Exactly. Some of the questions are very pressing to really get to the roots and also discover what people might not realize themselves, even how they interpret diabetes. For example, do you feel you're the diabetic, which is why it's only language, but everything is in language. The words we say gives us the indication of what's going on in our minds, therefore what we feed into our bodies, because we become what we believe. And that's not to be taken lightly. So discovering what somebody thinks. So I hear most people, they will go around and they'll say, I'm a diabetic. Really? Are you a diabetic? Or do you just have a condition where your pancreas isn't functioning and you have diabetes? Or do you see it as it does consume you? Are you the diabetic? And a lot of people have this constant focus of the condition as well, that it has to be a problem, and they forget who they actually are. They become this label.
Yeah.
And, people lose themselves then, and their life becomes consumed with it. And from being a child, I've been very positive with diabetes. And I've been through all kinds of twists and turns with it, from being in a coma to being told I was going blind, and gosh knows all these nasty things with it. So I've been there and experienced it, but it's still about having that mindset to get through it and not see it as a problem. You have to see a way out, and you can't get consumed in it. But still, with all those things going on, I never saw it as a problem. I was very solutions focused with it. But actually, when I started on my reversal work and I did my PhD in type 1 diabetes reversal, so then I thought, I have to write a book about this. I have to get the message out to the world, and I really want to help people with it. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, my field is helping people in psychotherapy. So I was also noticing how much things were a problem for people, and I'd never seen things as a problem. So as we also got more online and on the internet as well, there was all these forums that started popping up, diabetes, this, that, and the other. And I thought it would never occur to me to join a forum to focus on something that's not that great.
Because you don't look at it as a problem. Right.
Why would you want more of it? So, but for my research, I had to go on and join some of these forums, but I couldn't help but be positive on the forum. So there was people with type 2 diabetes saying they couldn't get rid of it, they couldn't reverse it, and they sucked into this black hole. Mm-hmm. I thought, this is crazy. So this was about 8 years ago, at least 10 years ago, before everything was revealed that you can reverse type 2 diabetes. And I said, with diet, you can reverse type 2 diabetes, and this is possible, that's possible. You know what? I got banned from the forum.
You did? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I got banned from the forum.
Damn you for being positive, Dr. M. How dare you?
Bad girl.
Oh, my gosh. How dare you try to take these labels off? Oh, my gosh.
But they didn't like it because some people like to dwell in a problem. It's what, is referred to in the book as a secondary gain of actually a positive out of a negative.
We don't know.
The ability to, just dwell in it. So that's, some people might not have support in other aspects of their life. So they go into this negative forum, and because they've got a problem, they're getting support, which is the other positive benefit. And that happens a lot of the time with any form of health, even mental health. People start getting the special attention because they've got this illness. So therefore, they cling on to this illness. And that doesn't have to be the case. And when you can step out of your comfort zone, which is the other book, to actually think, I can get this support, I can get this love from elsewhere in other ways, I can let go of the condition, or at least the condition being this black hole and this problem. Go and find your life, go and find your blueprint and who you really are. Forget the condition. Yes, be aware of it, look after it, but it doesn't have to be this awful problem.
Well, and it's the same. It's just so interesting that you took that approach, because it's the same thing of, I'm overweight, my whole family is. I have diabetes or cholesterol or blood pressure, my whole family does. Where it's the behavior in the lack of activity or the poor eating habits or that has really come along the way that has really led a lot to the condition that you're in. But we're not taught that we can reverse things. We're not taught that if someone says you can never walk again, that you can. We have those special people that you and I both know that said, oh, really? You're going to tell me I'm not going to walk again? Seriously? Move out of my way. And that's what you brought in this book. One thing that I do want to mention that I'm going to honestly say I have not listened to yet, but I did see it in the book and I want to have you speak about it, is that you talk through getting rid of negative beliefs or limitations or via your website. So how does that work where you talk them through that type of process?
Sure, this is just an audio where you have my lovely voice talking to you.
Okay, I wanted to make sure we mentioned this.
Yeah, with some music. They're all free resources that go with the book and with both books as well. Because in essence, it doesn't matter what we're talking about, diabetes or life. If there's a negative belief, we have to get to the root of it. And then there's certain ways, and it's a technique in how to untangle and let go of these negative beliefs such that they're no longer within your body. You don't hold them anymore. And once you let go of them, then you become again that blank canvas. So you can start to absorb different things. You can start to absorb the positive, and you can retrain yourself. So retrain your brain, reprogram your entire neurology. So when you begin to think differently, you'll start to get the different results. And that can be in life or that can be medically. It doesn't matter. But the book just takes you through everything in terms of explaining the minute understanding of how the mind and body are connected scientifically, and explains why it works, but also how it works, like you say, with these techniques. You can listen to the audios so you can again rip out these rotting beliefs, because they're causing rot within your body. They're just not good for you, and the more you have that going on, the more you'll never be able to move out of it. And if you believe you will always have diabetes, and you believe it's a problem, and you believe you'll lose limbs and you'll go blind and all the rest of it, then
laying out the future.
You will, precisely. And it, like we talked about when we last met with the quantum world, it's exactly the same, and that's talked about in this book as well, specifically in terms of health goals. Get them down. What do you want to happen? What's the perfect you? Can somebody even imagine themselves not having diabetes? And that's quite an interesting one, having had it, you know, from growing up, to actually imagine something that you're so used to, almost a negative comfort zone, a health comfort zone, that you then suddenly don't have. Can you actually cope with that? Can you actually even
it's a new
what
world.
that would be like? Yeah, it is. You really got to retrain your brain, and the book takes you how to do that, and how to get these different feelings. But the focus really has to be on getting well, rather than even getting rid of diabetes. You just want to be well and healthy. Diabetes per se isn't the problem. It's actually the person, and it's what's behind the diabetes. We all have a reason why we got diabetes in the first place. Type 1 or type 2 comes down to stress and trauma. And what I find metaphysically with diabetes usually comes down to a deep-rooted sadness and actually bereavement. So that might be a bereavement usually of, you know, within death, or, you know, somebody close. Or it can be the bereavement of losing a parent in a divorce, for example, that's given some profound sadness to someone and literally ripped out the sweetness of their life. So that's why your body overcompensates in that way. And although this is new thinking, some people might think, it was a virus that attacked it. Yeah, it was a virus. But what made your immune system so low in the first place? You got that virus. And secondly, why did that virus go for your pancreas? That produces insulin that ordinarily takes out sugar from the body. So it's thinking about things very differently. But when you can do that, and you can step out of your comfort zone to do that, you know, the world's your oyster. Look what I've achieved from actually doing that and having a different mindset as a child, because I could have so easily let things bother me. And if I'd have gone with some of the beliefs that were tried to be pushed onto me, I wouldn't do anything, and my confidence would be through the floor. Because even in school, I got moved down from the top science set to the very bottom science set on the grounds that the teacher thought because I had diabetes, I wouldn't be able to cope with all the top work. And this had nothing to do with my exam results. They were the same as the other kids in the top set, but he moved me down. And at the time, I didn't even know his reasoning for that. And when I found out, it did knock my confidence a little bit, because I thought, is that what people think? They're likening diabetes to intellectual capabilities. That's alien to me, because it would never enter my neurology. However, I still fought to do another test in the bottom set, and I thought, I'm not having this, and got myself moved back up again. And I've gone throughout life with that philosophy. But you know, when I was first diagnosed as a child with diabetes, I was very positive. I did a project on it myself so I could start to understand it. And when I went back to school, I did talks to all the classes and tested their blood sugars, made them put them through all that. So the kids all knew the symptoms, and they know what to do and how to help me if something went wrong. despite all that, I once had a hypo. I was going shaky. I couldn't get my words out. They were slurred. So I couldn't help the school receptionist take these milk bottles back to where they needed to be. So I was called very rude, and I was given lines, and I just couldn't do these lines. Nobody figured out this was totally out of character for me to be rude. So they just, gave me these lines, kept me behind after school. Obviously, I'd lose my motor function having the hypo, so I couldn't do it. So the lines were literally Emma, 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 just repeated the whole time. So the teacher thought I was actually mocking doing that. So I wish I had have done, because that would have been quite funny actually, but it was actually just because I was having this glycemic attack. And it's only until my mum realised I wasn't at the school gates waiting to go home that something was wrong, and she flew up into the classroom and helped me and everything else. That was fine. But the next day I could have been off and I could have been ill, but I wasn't. I wanted to go back into school and just be regular child. And the school teacher actually told all the other children about what had happened that evening, and she called me a possessed devil. She said Emma was taken over by all these evil spirits. And even as a child, you didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So I stood up again. I had quite a bit of confidence, and I explained to the other kids that I just had a hypoglycemic attack. And they looked as shocked as I did, but they all knew what to do. They were fine with it. But just that moment there could have destroyed my confidence, made me resent diabetes, and go through life in a shell. But, we talked about change windows. I made that decision there and then to think, to hell with it.
I'm going to do it differently.
That could be a problem. But
good.
People have had those experiences, and it does shape their life, and it does bring them down. So the book's about identifying those, and if they have affected you, how you can actually change that and what you can
What we're almost out of time. I want to tell everybody on the book that looking at the stress, approaching stress, and it's not just a food thing and get active thing. And the way that you line this out, I want them to get it, but I also want to push your out of your comfort zone book, because they are a beautiful marriage together, and how they developed into the other one, and to commend you for getting outside of your own comfort zone to do both books. And you really have been teaching since you were 10, since this happened. So I want to thank you for being on the show. Time is already up, and
you are most welcome.
Having you so much, and appreciate it. So tell everybody where they can find you.
Okay, well, the first book is all the W's, outofyourcomfortzone.uk, or you can go on Doctor, which is DR central-mem.co.uk. I think that's actually, can we see that on the video?
I can't quite
post it, but
what I will do, I'll have Kat put that on there. Oh, I see it, Doctor. Okay, I've got it. We'll make sure we'll put it on there too. I want to say thank you, and please, everybody, listen to the pre-podcast that we did on the other book, Out of Your Comfort Zone. Thank you again for joining me. This is Coach Peggy on Coach Couch and Coffee Radio, and hop onto my website at 3wellnesspillars.com. I release a blog every week, and you can catch my social media and YouTubes. So till next time, America, thank you for joining us. Bye. I am.
Thank you for listening to Coach Couch and Coffee Radio with me, Coach Peggy Willms. Did you hear something that made you go, or have an aha moment? I live for those. If not, we will get you next time. I will be back every first and third Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific. The tough love you to become smarter, stronger, braver, healthier, and happier. Duh. I will be back with a barrel of positivity, and you never know when a guest might pop in. There is no time for excuses. So don't forget to bring your coffee and an open mind as we talk all things wellness on Coach Couch and Coffee Radio with me, Coach Peggy Willms. Now go grab a ray of sunshine.